Turning from traditional energy to renewable. This may come as a surprise, but Florida has surpassed California as a national leader in solar energy. However, the industry is facing serious headwinds. The federal budget recently passed by Congress cuts deeply into clean energy investments and tax credits. The bright future of Florida's solar industry now actually looks to be cloudy. Take a look. Growing demand, lower cost of materials, and lots of sunshine catapulted Florida's solar energy to the top spot for the renewable power. But that moment now appears to be under threat. The so-called Big Beautiful Budget Bill slashed many clean energy programs, and that has solar industry leaders more than worried.
It's a bit of a funeral for the industry. How dreadful it is to know that this industry is going to suffer in the coming months. I can tell you it's going to take a lot more, considering what's happening with this tax bill, to be able to further solar here in the state of Florida.
Certain tax incentives remain, but time is limited. The 30% credit for residential solar, also known as the Residential Clean Energy Credit, will end this year. To qualify for a 30% tax credit, your solar panels must be physically installed on your home and operational by December 31st. For Floridians facing rising utility costs, the decision to go solar had been more financial than green.
We're still growing. Currently, we're planning another 80,000 square feet of growth. We're looking for a phase 2 solar project to help us manage that going forward, to maintain our costs go down. We, as an organization or a business in general, could not afford to do this otherwise.
Beyond disappearing incentives, there is the threat of impacts due to new tariffs. Installers warn residents, as well as large solar projects at schools, car parks, and solar farms, they could pay 70% more for imported materials. U.S. solar manufacturers are now rushing to meet demand. The Solar Energy Industries Association says the U.S. is on track to produce 50 gigawatts worth of solar modules by the year 2030. That's the power output of 27 Hoover dams. Development in solar manufacturing is largely incentivized by the bipartisan CHIPS and Science Act of 2022. And Dr. Goswami, I'd like to start with you. How big a role does federal investment play in this industry here in Florida?
Well, the federal investment, like in the CHIPS Act that was mentioned, has been very important because manufacturing left U.S., went to China, and this investment brought manufacturing back. And that's what we want. We want jobs over here. We want local manufacturing. So the federal government, when federal government invests money in local industry, some people may call it subsidies, but I don't. As long as it helps the country, it increases jobs, and it increases opportunities, I think that's a good investment.
How would you say that advanced technology is helping to move us forward in terms of adapting more solar?
Well, advanced technology is important, and we are making a lot of advancements in research as at USF. And all of that is important to reduce the costs of solar. So it's important for us to keep doing that research and keep advancing.
There's been, experts have come out and talked about the increased demand on energy because of computers and artificial intelligence. So the question that many folks have is it realistic to think that solar power could provide enough energy for the daily needs of our organizations, our buildings, our schools?
Solar power can provide a large part of it, although it requires storage with it, which is usually battery storage. There will be others, like nuclear power will also be a part of it, and the conventional power too. But solar power, I think, is going to be cheaper for those data centers to adapt, along with the other power sources. But it's not, some people when they say 100%, no, it's not going to be 100%.
Right.
It's going to be part of the mix.
Bill, how has this impacted, or has it impacted your business?
Well, so that's an excellent question. The Big Beautiful Bill really has actually brought a lot of customers to our door, folks who want to get projects done before the end of the year that we're kind of on the fence, about maybe going forward with the project. So my firm is actually completely booked through the end of this year already.
Wow.
And a lot of the kind of more reputable contractors are already in that same boat. But it's certainly created a surge in terms of demand for rooftop solar. But I will say, even though this is a setback, I think in the long run, as we've discussed, solar and battery, those are technologies, and technologies get better and less expensive over time. And so this is a setback for the industry. I don't think it's a funeral. I think we're going to continue to see more and more folks adopt solar and battery systems for energy savings and also resilience. Battery systems on a home are an excellent alternative to a traditional standby generator. They don't have the fuel issues, they don't have carburetors that fail and things like that. So in the long run, I think this technology is going to continue to make huge advances in the state.
As a business owner, you've been tapped to, be engaged in policy at the state level. What are some of the things that you anticipate will occur?
I mean, that's a great question. I think there's going to continue to be, improvements that we can make at the state level in terms of policy. Right now, if you look at permitting for solar and for battery systems, a lot of the building departments are very slow at turning permits around and getting approvals, for these new technologies. And a lot of it comes down to just basic understanding of the technology. It's new, and the building departments aren't familiar with it. So there's a lot of learning that has to take place to get familiar with it. But we could certainly improve that, because that would drive down costs for consumers as well. We're not just seeing that in solar, of course. We're seeing that in all kinds of different things in terms of construction, but it certainly impacts us a lot. So.
And Charles, we have talked about how consumers can protect themselves, right? And one of the things that you mentioned is net metering. Can you explain what that is and why consumers should be wary of it?
One of the benefits that comes with solar is the possibility of sending excess power you've generated back to the grid for some kind of a credit or some kind of a compensation. And so oftentimes those promises aren't met with, again, a lot of these bad actors promising bigger things. So be wary of net metering as an issue and promise.
And again, the scams that you're seeing now in terms of solar, what is the most common, you would say?
Folks that aren't solar contractors, they go ahead and have someone who's got some background, they rent somebody's license out, they come to your door, really have no experience, no background, and all of a sudden they want you to roll some of your expense into a loan or a mortgage or note. And all of a sudden, if you're combining a solar loan into your mortgage, big problems occur there. So many are occurring here on the normal course.
Mitch, you've covered this industry, you've covered the energy industry, all of the updates for quite a long time. What would you say is the risk? How do you see Florida's risk in the solar boom in Florida?
Well,
what are the risks?
It's interesting.
For us?
I mean, I've been here covering news and politics for over 2 decades in Florida, and when I got here in the aughts, we didn't. The power utility companies, we didn't do hardly any solar. It was really embarrassing. People would say we're the Sunshine State. We don't do any solar, and that's really changed. And obviously the cost, I think, going down has been the driver of that. But I mean, even right now, Florida Power and Light, I read something the other day that I think they only had 6% of their portfolio was solar, and that's going to rise to over 30% maybe in the next few years. So they're putting a big investment into that. So we have seen this really grow. I have, living in Florida the last couple of decades, and as it's been mentioned, we're number 2 right now. I think the whole country, maybe going to be number 1 next few years. The politics of it are interesting. And this goes back to the 70s, for God's sake, when Jimmy Carter was elected and he put solar panels in the White House, and then Ronald Reagan took them off 4 years later. So it's always been controversial. And then it's combined with climate change, right? Because obviously this is a way of getting rid of alternatives or providing alternatives, get rid of your fossil fuels. And that has become a mix. Because I'm thinking, like, why did the president do this? Like, in terms of like get rid of this tax credit. Well, I was reading this executive order, and basically thinks it was Joe Biden pushed this on people in the Inflation Reduction Act, and it's hurting other businesses, and it's costing too much money. And I think, again, overall, when we look at our future here, obviously in this future of the world, there's growing need for energy all around. That's important. And then, clean energy is also a big deal as we go forward.
As you pointed out, President Trump is not the first president to roll back these tax credits. You alluded to 1982, President Ronald Reagan, and he took away the tax credit then. And Dr. Goswami, I'd like to ask you, what was the impact then to the industry here in Florida?
That's a good question, because we always have to look at history so that we don't repeat the mistakes of history. So 1982, when the tax credits were removed, Florida had the largest solar industry, not just in this country, but in the world. Florida manufacturers were exporting solar panels at that time to other countries. But taking that tax credit away all of a sudden just decimated that industry.
Okay.
And so it's not like I'm against taking tax credits away, but if you do it in an orderly way, gradually, that gives time to the industry to adjust and adapt.